Hey everybody, welcome to Babetown, episode 013. I'm your mayor of Babetown and host, Andrew Dalton. I can't say that with a straight face. I just wanted to say mayor of Babetown because it's hilarious. Anyway, how are you doing? It's Sunday when I'm recording this. Who knows when you listen to this? You know, maybe 4 a.m. on a Thursday night. I'm not one to judge, but I hope you're doing well. Just watched the AFC Championship. I wonder if the Patriots are ever bored of winning. Do you think they get bored of winning? Do you think that Tom Brady gets home after like a playoff win and he's going to the Super Bowl, or just after he wins the Super Bowl these days and it's just like, all right, well, we got another one. We'll see what's on TV. I feel like that would be the case. I also feel like Bill Belichick is the most bipolar man when it comes to winning and losing. Those guys are supposed to be NFL players because they get so angry when they lose and then get so happy when they win. I can't imagine being that happy over sports ever, and that's why I don't play it. That's also why I have the body shaped like a trapezoid. Could you imagine being in an NFL locker room after like a playoff loss? Imagine how pissed off everyone. Have you ever been in a room where everyone is pissed off? Like everyone is angry. Because I thought about it the other day and I realized that I really haven't. Like I've never been in a room where literally everyone is angry, and I feel like that would be the most intense situation to be in. Someone's like, hey, a hostage situation would be pretty intense. I don't know, man. Have you ever been in an NFL locker room after they lose a playoff game or the Super Bowl? My guest today is Aaron Blackerby. He fronts and sings the band Major Grizz. He also plays guitar. I don't know about the verb fronts. You're the front of it. I guess it kind of makes sense. I hate using the phrase, though. I'm going to start using another phrase. He is a member, a front member, a person in the band Major Grizz. Major Grizz is a very loud, very fun rock and roll band here in Austin, Texas. A little At the Drive-In, a little bit of like the Vandals, a little bit of like early Sparta. I hear in their music just a lot of really good punk rock, and it's really fun to see them out and playing. I've played with them a few times myself. Wanted to jump on stage and like maybe bash a tambourine, maybe play a loud harmonica alongside of them, but I never did, and that's probably a good thing. The song at the end of the episode is called Ring Wormington. That's off an EP that's coming out later this year called Moss Aggression. But in the meantime, they have a couple of shows coming up. One's going to be at Hotel Vegas on January 27th, and another one's going to be at, I believe, Mohawk on February 16th, and that one's with Dr. Joe, Blood Pumps, and Rust Never Sleeps, which, if we're being technical, I guess Rust does never sleep because they're not a person. So well done, dudes. Anyway, go check them out, see their shows, listen to their music. Aaron is a great dude. Had a great time talking to him, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So here you go, everyone. Aaron Blackerby.
It's time for the No Pants Podcast.
No Pants.
No Pants.
Broadcasting from the south of France. We're definitely not in France. I will tell you this. You're listening to the No Pants Podcast. And there I was in Shawshank Prison, listening to the No Pants Podcast. Some look at pants and ask why. I look at pants and ask why not. It is inevitable that we're here today to discuss the No Pants Podcast. I'm Michael Kine, and I listen to the No Pants Podcast. The 1922 World Series brought to you by the No Pants Podcast, yes, and I suppose. Hey, we're gonna listen to the No Pants Podcast? I mean, really, the question at hand is if there will be pants or if there will not be pants. But will there be pants and will there not be pants?
Welcome to the No Pants Podcast.
For the gram.
For the gram.
We do it for the gram.
That's a gallant way to say
it's
that.
It's a gallant way to say something for Instagram. And we're here with Aaron Blackerby.
Oh, shit. That's great.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing well.
Awesome. Man, your name sounds like a goddamn soccer player.
I do not play soccer.
I don't either. But I figured if you did, that would be a name, like Aaron Blackerby approaches midfield, kicks for the, I don't know, what happens in soccer, man? I don't know what happens in soccer.
Yeah, you're once again talking, I would say kicks for the goal or something.
Yeah, passes, makes a pass. He makes a pass for midfield. I know there's midfield. There's a middle of the field, and sometimes you could throw with your hands if you're the goalie.
Well, and if you're out of bounds, you can throw with your hands.
Yeah.
Blackerby with the cross.
Yeah.
That would be.
Blackerby with the cross hand.
Yeah.
The stick shuck.
The header.
You know who'd be really into soccer? I bet you Oasis.
Yeah.
I bet you they're really into soccer.
They are big soccer
I
fans.
walked into Aaron's place here, and he had an Oasis video on, and it was, which song was that?
It's called Do You Know What I Mean?
Yeah. Okay.
It's off their third album.
What year was that? They had
it's off Be Here Now,
Okay.
which came out in 1997.
Okay, 97.
And I've just in general been not watching as much TV, but watching a lot of music videos.
So they get out of, if you haven't seen this video, they get out of a helicopter and they just have a setup waiting for them in some like bombed out part of Germany or something. Is it Liam or Noel that's just singing with his hand in his pockets?
That's Liam.
So Liam is just sitting here rocking with his hand in his pockets. I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for this, but fuck it. Who cares? I don't know. If I actually get in trouble for doing that, that means somebody's giving a shit. So
exactly.
I don't care. But so this is 1997, peak Oasis. There are military helicopters doing maneuvers everywhere.
It has the production quality of basically all of those Bad Boy Records rap videos from like 96 to 99. You know, like Hypnotized by Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
Victory by Puff Daddy. Also, Can't Nobody Hold Me Down. All About the Benjamins, Mariah Carey, Honey. But like, so that was basically all going in to R&B and hip hop at that time in rap. And then basically Oasis takes the same production quality and puts it on like
and just
arena
puts
rock.
it, and it's like, why not? You
Exactly.
know, because all American bands were doing was like what 97 was like Train, all that bullshit. The Brits had to come back with something that was decent. The Brits knew how to be cool in the 90s.
They did.
And rappers knew how to be cool in the 90s. American rock bands, late 90s, a lot of them didn't know how to be cool. We had like Fuel, and
It was that weird time where I think after the grunge movement is happening, you have bands that like consider themselves like rockers, like Goo Goo Dolls and Sugar Ray, things like that, where that was considered, I think, like rock music at the time, but
Right.
they're all like very beautiful people. And then there's like Limp Bizkit and Korn, which is
we went straight to the shit.
yeah.
Like we didn't have a cool our cool 90s rock phase was early mid 90s, and then after that it was just the Europeans took over. They're like,
Right.
we got this, we're good.
We'll take care of y'all.
Yeah,
again.
and then America was like, how about some Corn?
Yeah. Feeling like a freak on the lace.
Yeah, and then the angry suburban white kids took over. We're like, we'll take it from here, and then we were just
which then Eminem became the spokesperson for at
Yeah.
the time, and now those people have grown up and have tiki torches,
yeah.
and like we basically have just taken like what the zeitgeist over the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's a deal, man. We just allowed bands with really shitty singers to take over for a good chunk of time there, from about 1998 to maybe 2005. And I've touched on this before with some other guests that I've had, but it's a weird phenomenon to talk about, where it's just like, oh, I guess our rock bands have rappers in them now, and that's what rock and roll is now. It's just rappers, and that's it. So
Of all the people at MTV during that time, who do you think is the most responsible for that decline? Matt Penfield,
ooh.
Carson Daly, or Jesse, the crazy drugged out first voted VJ in?
Matt Pinfield was very much a rock and roll elitist in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna eliminate him. I'm gonna say the most responsible was had to be Carson Daly.
Right.
100% Carson Daly, because he just kind of was whatever. He was very into hip hop already, and I think he was really kind of all about the rap rock phenomena.
But the other thing is, like, he was kind of the curator for the kids, at the time. And so our generation, for whatever reason, was calling for this melding of music like that at the time. And so, like, he obviously, I think he's like the most responsible, but I also think of it maybe as like a curator for it.
A curator with one black fingernail.
Yeah, for his coke.
Yeah, always had one black fingernail.
And he was like dating Tara Reid at the time too.
Yeah, it's like, how much coke are you doing there, buddy? He was dating Tara Reid.
Yeah.
She was hot for like 4 hours.
And then it got sad.
And then after that, I was like, oh man, I'm not about Tara Reid.
You got
anymore.
Tanner and Blonder, and now I'm like afraid for you.
She was a tough one. I don't know, man. 16-year-old me was pretty much about it. About Tara Reid, year 2000.
Yeah. I mean,
2003, she was out.
There you go.
It was out. It was straight up out. We are doing this episode with no pants. This is the first actual no pants episode.
Is this the 13th episode?
It is the 13th episode.
Oh, that's perfect. I think that
with
works.
no pants. And this was Aaron's idea, and I welcome this idea with open legs, I would say, with legs wide open.
And lo and behold, there they are.
And here I have good legs. You know, some people have told me I had good legs. I just made that up. Nobody's ever told me that. But I would
you have good legs for a power stance when I've seen you play your rock music.
Appreciate
and
it.
with your long flowing hair at the time.
Yeah, thank you. I try to be as majestic as possible. You know, when I'm playing, I could probably be a major league pitcher if I wanted to as well. Low center of gravity. But yeah, man, how are you doing? How are things? How is Major Grizz doing? You know, what are we up to there? How's life?
Overall, it's pretty good. We're about to get the snowstorm in, so I think I'm going to work from home tomorrow, which will be dope.
There's a snowstorm coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Man, that means I'm going to fire up the crock pot.
It's time.
It's time. Let's do. I'm gonna have a stew going tomorrow.
It's gonna be stew soup, soul food kind of day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And then as far as Major Grizz stuff is going, things are going really well. Trying to get unofficial South by gigs at the moment. Trying to book that up. We have a show coming up at Hotel Vegas with Big Bill, which is gonna be dope. And we just had a really fun free week. I did every performance I tried to do something for myself that made me like incredibly uncomfortable, something I'd never done on stage.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
What did you What did you do?
I think like the first show was trying not to. I mean, there weren't a lot of people at the first show. It was that Monday, January 1st, where like it was super cold outside, and so we had like not a lot of people out at the Mohawk, and I think I just wanted to like see. I've always had a problem with like telling people to come forward. I'm always like I feel like it should be like on the onus of the band, but like now I've kind of thrown that out. I'm just like no, like you just got to come up.
Yeah.
So that was like the first one. So that's like pretty small potatoes and everything, and then
it's a weird deal when you have to tell the audience to come forward. Like, hey, you could be closer to the stage. It's all right.
Yeah.
We're not gonna.
You're
hurt
probably
you.
gonna enjoy it more if
Yeah.
you are as well.
Yeah. Hey, you're all on the perimeter of the room. Are you guys cats? Are you all cats? What's going on?
Why? Why did you? It's one of those things like why did you come out if you don't want to be a participant in it?
Yeah.
So that was like the first one. That's not like a big deal. And then like kind of wanted to up the ante. So I wrote on a bunch of these notepads right here, like all the things I'm insecure about with myself.
Sure.
And I literally taped them onto my jacket that I was going to wear that night to play with. And so I just was like, what would it be like if you wore your insecurities like a badge of honor?
Okay.
You know? And then like the last night.
Wait. Let's pause on that for a second. How the fuck did that go? How did that end up going?
Really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
did people ask you about that off stage?
Some did.
Okay.
Some people took pictures and everything, and I just kind of like I do a lot of like self-evaluating of myself, and
that's a good thing.
Try to be like because I do a lot of self-evaluating. I'm not always like present,
sure.
But I try to be like really conscientious.
Yeah.
Which I don't think like comes across when I'm like playing music on stage because I'm like pretty crazy.
Definitely comes across in person though.
Yeah.
You know, you could tell.
And so
it's a good thing.
Thanks. Yeah, and so there's like certain things that I'm incredibly insecure about, and you know, a lot of times with insecurities, and when you think about them, or when I think about them, you know, it kind of goes to like the worst common denominator, the worst place. It's like, if you do this, you'll die.
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
like,
right.
Like it just goes to it just everything goes to 11 immediately with that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and so. Like the things that I'm insecure about, I'm just like, ugh. And so it was kind of a challenge for me. It's like, one, write out, like literally look at the words of things that you think about yourself in a really negative way, and wear it and see what happens, and see if you die or not.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially it's kind of like,
You're still here.
still here,
Yeah,
still,
didn't die.
you know, made it. And,
Yeah.
you know, and like part of it too was like play so hard that you're like shaking that shit off to you too. So
Yeah.
it was kind of this performance art piece, I guess, that I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah,
it's
man.
not really even something I told my band members about that I was going to be doing. I just, you know,
Just
did
do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. See what happens. It's funny. Fuck
Yeah.
it. There's really no rules.
Right.
Just right.
Yeah.
Like Outback Steakhouse.
That's right.
Life is basically Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah.
Except you don't have unlimited Australian steaks or bloomin' onions, you know. But it's really, I wish you
sounds
did.
great.
Oh, what if we had as many bloomin' onion machines as we did water fountains? I would be a fat ass.
I would be fatter than I am
much
today.
fatter than I am today.
Yeah.
But no, that's really cool, man. I think you kind of play a style of music that lends itself to things like that. And
I think it's like kind of sorry to interrupt, but like when we play live, like it's already like emotionally cathartic for me.
Sure.
And so I'm just kind of wanting to do more things on stage that kind of continuously dive into that, being cathartic, being kind of visceral and raw, on an emotional level as well.
You have a style of music. You guys are playing a style of music that kind of throws back to an era that is not really referenced a lot in music right now. And I've noticed that for a little bit, and I kind of like it, man. I like the fact that y'all are playing music that a lot of people still don't play right now, as far as like our contemporaries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What made you do, like, you just don't give a fuck, or what made you want to keep on making music like that? Like, how does that work? Do you even I don't even know if you think about it in that context, but you know,
I guess maybe this can kind of lean into like a story of how the band just kind of got created.
Sure.
Three of us in the band, PJ, Jason, and I. PJ's our drummer and Jason's bass player.
Yeah.
We we all played together in a former project that I was also the man. I'm like talking and like breathing, like not breathing properly.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
You're good.
and so we all played in a band called Fire in the Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And Fire in the Kitchen was kind of like my own creative project, really, like, and it went through a lot of different band members, and it went through until like PJ and Jason kind of like held things down for about a year and a half. But there was like 3 years leading up to that where I had like different players, things on, you know, some, like, I mean, I was a really bad band leader with that. And I was also really young. So like, I didn't know what my vision was for the band.
Sure. Everybody is when you're young, man.
Didn't know what my vision was, you know, but like incredibly ambitious. And so what I kind of found from that experience was that I felt like it was very hollow. I felt like I was chasing after something that wasn't real. So like I tried to like personally like write marketable songs and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I have like a lot of pop sensibilities already. So like that doesn't like bother, like that's just like kind of a part of my own like writing formula for the most part. But I ended up, once Dan came in the band, which is like really interesting. We had a guitar player named Wesley who played, and then like he dropped out, and like a week later we did one last show all together at the Swan Dive, and it was just like a terrible fucking show.
Yeah.
Like I think I smoked like a pack of cigarettes that whole night. It was like how like...
Oh, before you played?
No, after.
Okay.
I was just like so upset.
I was like,
and
before you
everything.
played, maybe not the best for the voice.
Yeah.
I said on my episode Friday with Sam Powell, I was like, when I was younger, I used to just eat a lot of Taco Bell before I played. Not the best move. So when you're younger, yeah, you make a lot of bad moves at shows.
Right.
So yeah.
And so when Wes left, we had already put down a deposit. We were going to go record with Frenchie, and we were about to go like record and, you know, slew of songs over a weekend with him.
When was this?
2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, in February we're having our 2-year birthday anniversary party as a
holy
band.
shit! All right.
And during that recording process, we met Dan, our guitarist, moved back from Dallas, and he'd been playing with us for a month. We said, hey, we're going to go record. And so Dan came in and recorded and just kind of brought his own thing. And so when that happened, the tracks that came out of there were so different from everything else we were doing that we decided to like make a name change. And for me, it was like a really big kind of letting go moment, because it's like I constantly think about what art is and what it means to me. And the type of music that we play is the most authentic expression of what I want to put out into the world.
Definitely.
And so I'm like very passionate about it. And that's kind of where to go and really answer your question. I don't give a fuck about,
right.
like,
as you shouldn't,
like marketing it. I mean, I care about people listening to it and marketing that way, but like, I like that we're kind of our own thing, and that we're kind of like have punk rock energy with big ass guitars and, you know, things like that. And so like, it's like incredibly fun to do that and play that. And, so that, I mean, that's kind of like history of the band a little bit, and kind of to answer that question, it's just basically like Major Grizz is not about, our band is not about like following the rules of, you know, how to make it. Because I think if we start mimicking each other, even in like our business practices as bands, we're not going to stand out from one another. Yeah. So
there's something to be said about standing out from each other and then just working together at the same time. There's no reason to follow any sort of sound these days anyway, because all you need to worry about is just being who you are, and the people will come to you, man. Just have fun doing your shit. It's really easy these days to overthink it. Really easy these days to overthink it, because you have all the data in front of you. So it's really easy to turn into fucking Jeff Goldblum in front of a computer and just be like, well, you know, if you do this and we do this, wait, hold on, wait a second, we'll do this.
My
and like you just like
Jeff Goldblum shower curtain.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, I'll show you. Okay.
Well, we're moving the podcast to the bathroom now.
Sure.
So
a perfect place for us to not have pants.
Yeah. Well, this is things got erotic at the 013 episode very quickly. And in the presence of Jeff Goldblum, nothing is out of the question, you know. Actually, that's a good thing to have on a t-shirt. Just in the presence of Jeff Goldblum, nothing is out of the question. Anyway, I digress. When you start overthinking it, it's just easy to overthink it, man. I think there's a very liberating feeling in not overthinking it these days. Almost like you're just taking a break from just the river of constant thought, you know?
Yeah. Well, I read this article that really changed kind of my perspective on even like how to run the business of a band. And I also love like a lot of punk music, so I'm kind of always like wanting to understand some real DIY things. But the article was written by Jeff Tweedy.
Wow. Good man.
Yeah, and he was talking about Wilco, and he was talking about his business practices and how like bands do not like doing the business end of things. And he just said, he's like, I just had to change my mindset because I didn't like it either. And he was just like, what if I just turn business into like a new form of art?
Sure.
And so I try to do that when I think about ways to promote ourselves and, you know, market ourselves, and even the way we sell ourselves and our merch and everything. Like, I mean, we don't put a price on our merch.
Sure.
You know, it's just like pay whatever you want for it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that. And it works? It works for you?
Yeah, we've definitely made like more of a return on money, and kind of another thing with just like, I really like empowering people. Yeah. And I want to kind of, you know, help out with that. And so one of the ways that I was further thinking about like how you can empower people is like, sure, I can, once again, like every band in town can put, this shirt is $15, $10, $20, whatever. Sure. And honestly, I didn't like that. Because I was like, I don't know if you're good enough for that. Yeah. You know? And so but I wanted to empower people that like decided to like us, and I also wanted to incentivize our performance as a band. Yeah. And so I just said like, pay whatever you want. And honestly, most people are like, oh, okay, $20.
Yeah, we'll still give you.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, man. I never thought about it that way.
They're really cool. They're like, I mean, people think it's like a gimmick. I mean, maybe it's a shtick, but it's not a gotcha type of thing. It's like, no, really, like I care more right now about you being a fan and wearing the shirt somewhere.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
an extra $20 in our band bank account.
Yeah, man, that's so. Man, I'm gonna go over to Taylor now and be like, "Hey, we're gonna do our merch like this." Oh man!
I also think it's like if you want to be like real economical about it, I mean, it's literally letting the market dictate. You know, how much you're worth.
That's the most laissez-faire thing you could ever do. Yeah, that's laissez-faire as fuck. Yeah,
and I'm not, but
right.
I mean, like I'm pretty liberal, but I wanted to think of like. Once again, I guess I think of like the business end of a band and like how do you scale it properly? And a lot of bands like overorder merch, tour too early, do a lot of things that we think we have to do and overextend
and you really
ourselves.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like we get limited runs on our t-shirts, we get
Sure.
limited runs on our koozies, vinyl, all that. And it's just like, just scale the band properly. Like it's better to have things you in demand than not.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting how being a band, I'll try to articulate this point as best as
Sure.
I can, but it's really interesting how being a band and just being a musical entity, trying to run your own shit in 2018 and 21st century it's so open-ended and it's so up to you as to where you can take your career. And it's very much a very like libertarian type deal these days because there's so many options and so many ways to go about it. And you're really in the driver's seat, depending on how much work you put into it. But at the same time, it's really more than ever about building a community around yourself and around the other bands and around the people that are in it with you and empowering your fans, like you said. And you really end up building this really strong fucking group of people around, like built around your band, and then the people that are really into your band and like your closest fans and shit like that. And it's a pretty miraculous thing if you try to run a band these days, because all of these pillars of what used to hold up the old industry have just been knocked out, and in its place we're just kind of building this like meshwork of fans directly interacting with the artists that they like.
Sure, yeah.
In its place, and it's creating something that was never there before, and it's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, it's always been really interesting to me what's being put in the place of the old shit, because the old shit just existed to really just put money in the pockets of everyone but the artist. Right. And then the fans would also get screwed out of a lot of stuff because they're overpaying for shit.
Yeah.
And they're not really getting their money's worth or anything, too. So, you know, it was always a really weird thing. So what's being put in its place is pretty cool, if you ask me.
I think so, too. And, you know, having friends that, you know, they're very, like, good at vetting who's on their team for their band, and hearing, like, just because you bring on one other person does not mean your workload is lessened. It's just changed. Yeah. And I think that's like an important thing too, is like kind of building the community, building team between bands and stuff. Yeah. Do you feel like we're good at building a community in Austin of musicians?
Yeah, I think it's there. I think it's definitely there. I've actually just being able to do this podcast for the last few months, like seriously for the last few months, because I started it like in June and didn't really kind of get it going until a few months ago. But just doing this in the short time that I've been doing this, I've been able to see what's there. And I definitely think there is, man. Is there like a slight underpinning of competition? Absolutely.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think in the sense of competition, like I love going to see a band that I'm on the same bill with. Yeah. That I look up to, that I even get like a little scared by how good their performance is, because it elevates my performance.
Yeah, man. I saw
it's like, fuck, you did that. Oh, gotta go.
Oh, man. I played with this band, and for the life of me, I got to remember, because I'm on the spot now, and I got to remember who they are, but I played with them at Barracuda a year ago. Mm-hmm. They were phenomenal. They made me want to write more. Yeah. Like, I love seeing bands that I play with where it's like, you have that moment where you're like, oh, we need to write more. We just need to write more.
And you just like feel like running out and being like, yeah. I've had that a couple of times with like bands here. I'm like, fuck, I got work to do. I can't be drinking.
It happened this year. Yeah, who am I kidding? It happened this year plenty of times. And I mentioned this band before, but Teneros. We played with Teneros. Yeah. And I just love their whole deal, man.
They have a whole vibe.
Thing
yeah,
they got going on. I have a friend of mine dances for them, and then like they have a song that's like this galloping beat, that goes on the whole time, and it kind of just repeats itself. And then it's this beat that's like da da ga da 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 ga da da ga da 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 ga, and it's this weird time signature, repeats itself the whole time, and it's a really repetitive song. But at the same time, you're just like, I don't want to stop listening to this.
Yeah.
And that girl has a killer voice, man. Just killer voice. And it's crazy going out and seeing and playing with somebody that like makes you want to step your game up. You're like, oh, we should be better.
We got work to do. Yeah.
And so you never stop. Yeah, you never stop wanting to see what the next thing is with whatever you're doing. You know.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of good bands that I'm just always like in awe of.
That's why I like doing this, is because I actually can get my feet wet in the world of like what the fuck is happening in this town, because I've lived in this town for 10 years. And I know that I don't know enough for somebody who lived in this town for 10 years. And I was like, what's a good way to do that? And what's a good way to get out and know the people that I've been interacting with at these shows a lot? So, because it's mind blowing.
It feels in the last maybe 2 years overall, but the last year for sure, that it's coming together more. The scene and everything. And I feel like ambition is kind of being rewarded a little bit more in Austin, which I don't think it was at another time. And
or maybe it's just coming. You're hitting your stride professionally too. You know,
I think so. I mean, like as like in general, just like an artist, and person who likes to write, like constantly writing stuff, and I'm like also doing this kind of full on side project thing where I'm like producing everything on my own, and my buddy Sebastian is engineering it.
There you go.
And it's just because like I believe in my taste as a musician, and I believe I'd be a good producer. And I've tried to reach out to other bands to like rearrange songs and stuff like that, and just see if I can do it. You know, I don't actually know. I kind of like the idea of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, you know what? Fuck it. Like, why don't I just go and do this thing on my own and make it basically like, maybe I'll perform with it or not, but like just making an advertisement for other bands that like, there's another resource out here. I'm probably cheaper than some other things. Yeah. Let's just do a song together and figure this shit out.
See if you could do it.
Yeah.
A lot of times you just got to start it on your own and then like build it from there.
That's right.
Sometimes you just gotta,
Nikki, don't worry about it, dude. Come on through.
Yeah, you're good. We're not wearing pants. It's all good.
No worries. Nikki, enjoy the post. Tell your parents I said hi.
Godspeed. So, yeah, man.
That was my roommate, Nikki, with the Nikki Hetherington advertising drop in the middle of this podcast. I know we don't have any sponsors just yet, but be sure to order Blue Apron at some point. Maybe get on that stamps.com.
Yeah, they're going to need to start paying me before we say their names on the air. Yeah, that's
well, I did. I'm hoping that they'll sponsor me now. Yeah,
there you go. He's hijacking my podcast to get sponsors for his thing.
I'll just put like all these. We will turn our band flag that we have on stage into a NASCAR basically, and just put a bunch of sponsors over it.
Yeah, everywhere. Put them on the kick drum.
Major Grizz, sponsored by Capital One.
I'd be sponsored by Shell, and then I'd put the little Shell stickers on the tuning pegs of my bass.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There you go.
And the same yellow with like maybe like that red.
Yeah, get a Shell, like a red and yellow Shell bass.
That'd be fucking awesome.
I saw some band on a Jeep commercial a few months ago, and it was really, there was like, because they were just like living like a rebel, but it's like a Jeep commercial. You're like, hey man, I'm pretty sure that's like the opposite of living like a rebel, but you do you, man. You're gaming the system. You're the one making money. Who am I to say, But I just thought it was funny. I was just like, I'm not gonna bash anybody for making a living, but like that
Jeep,
was just
the rebellion car.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. I'm like, hey man,
is Jeep sponsoring the rebellion of the South or the resistance? There's so many rebellions right now that I got to keep up with.
There's a lot
there's
of
some I align with, and there's some I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Conveniently packaged for mass consumption. Yeah, the revolution will be televised apparently, to the much dismay of the late Gil Scott Heron. Yeah, that was funny. I don't know what band that was. Another band with like a lot of kick drums and the singer's bald.
Kick drum that matches your heartbeat.
Yeah.
Hand claps. Then when you get to about 2:45 in the song, drop and build it up. Big booming chorus to end, maybe twice, maybe 4 times to really stick that fucking chorus in your head.
Yeah.
$1 million check.
So I've been hearing
That's the formula.
that it really is. It's very accurate. My radio dial has been on KUTX for about 2 weeks, but before that, for some reason, I was listening to just 101X for a few days, just driving around. I was moving into my new place and making a few trips across town, and there is a new kind of filler band. And it used to be like the date rapey, like 3 Days Grace, like Shine Down type stuff.
Yeah,
It used to be that, right? Like the radio metal, the Breaky Benjamins, the 3 Days Gracies, that type of shit. And line 6 amps, like they all just play line 6 amps.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, because that's a good distortion to play. And now it is that formula that you're talking about. It's that like very sterile, like kind of low male voice. Like
Well, I
can't do
think Mumford and Sons was the ones who perfected it.
Yeah, they did the country version of that.
Right, but they made the sound so big that it still felt arena rocky.
Yeah.
And I mean, Marcus Mumford has such a limited range as a vocalist. He knew what he was doing.
Right.
And like, God bless that man for being the millionaire that he is.
Right.
But there is something to take from that too, you know. Like I said, I like pop music, so
Sure. I like pop music. I don't like the stuff that's like obviously just kind of made.
What are your thoughts on Taylor Swift? Let's talk about this.
Oh, Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
I mean, little girls need music too, I guess.
Dude.
She never bothered me.
The drum sounds on State of Grace off the Red album.
Yeah.
It's the first song.
Yeah.
So fucking incredible.
But I mean, we could talk about drum sounds all day, but like what about her song Grape Juice Afternoon? Or Or I Think Boys Are Cute. What about that song?
Honestly, I came in on the Red album for the most part. Fearless
Juice
is
Box,
okay.
Juice Box Surprise. Yeah.
But look, I mean, she also grew as an artist too. And like, I think the cool thing about sometimes listening to that big production pop music for me
I do it all the
personally
time.
is that not one person did this. This was like a team effort, and they got like the best people in the world
Sure.
to like go and do this.
Sure.
And so I find that's like very inspiring from like a collaborative effort. And, sometimes I think like we all kind of want to, hold so tight to like what our vision is, but like sometimes the vision can be fulfilled even more with kind of a little bit more
Definitely.
of a egoless team in the room. I mean, even Kanye does that.
Oh,
He's
sure.
the conductor.
Sure,
and Taylor
sure.
Swift is the conductor, but they're still getting like the best people that they want.
Definitely. It's or Taylor, in the case of Taylor Swift, her dad, was getting the best people that they want.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's good. I'm never gonna like put a Taylor Swift record on, but like, girls need music. Little girls need
Just try 1989.
Just try 1989. Let's try it.
That's all I'm saying.
But man, sometimes I will listen to the mix on a lot of records that are just typically you wouldn't call them the most street credible things out there, but it's just like sometimes you just got to listen to the shit. I put on a Linkin Park record. I put on Hybrid Theory the other day just to listen to the production value, and also just it was when Chester died, so
Right,
I was
of
like
course,
just listening back to Hybrid Theory. I was like, damn, dude, that was some huge sounding shit, dude. They made some really big sounding stuff. I always thought
The guitars. Boom,
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. I mean, that's not even like how loud they are. It's like that distortion is like
definitely not how loud they are.
the distortion is like trying to cut your wrist.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And a lot of their fans did back in the day because they were 12. But
Youch.
I was 15. Man, I was like, when did Hybrid Theory come out? 2001?
Something like that.
Well, I was like 17. I was
Yeah.
about it, man. I was all about that shit. I listen to, sometimes I'll put on Chevelle's first record. Mm-hmm. Chevelle to me is always in a funny place because they kind of play that brand of bro rock, but they did it from a slightly feminine place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Pete Loeffler's vocals, his lyrics, I felt like they were always pretty introspective. They were always pretty cerebral. He was clearly he's clearly really into Maynard,
Yeah.
clearly really into Tool. But I always thought the mixes on those records were phenomenal. The mix on Chevelle's Wonder What's Next is fantastic. And it's a 3-piece band, makes him sound huge. You know, the bass is really in there. I think a lot of rock records, it's hard. It's easy to cut that bass out where there's not a lot of power under it, you know. But I really, as a bass player myself, I really dig records where the bass is
Doesn't happen on Major Grizz records. We put that bass up in that bitch.
Literally what Grizz is in our records. So, but yeah, man, sometimes you just got to listen to I've got the same mentality with you a lot where I like listening to shit that I don't really like to not listen to something because I think it's bad. I like studying stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
I like taking stuff in and just kind of seeing it for what it is and being like, man, what is this? This is crazy. What made this tick? You know?
It's also not really valuable to be above it all.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that's kind of for people that that's kind of for that. That's for your like early mid 20s stage where you take yourself too seriously and like you have like hot, like way too strong opinions about like craft beer and stuff like that. You know, you just have like you're like your opinions are too strong for everything. You're just like, hey man.
It's also like when dating someone, you know, I would always ask like, and they could tell that it was like a make or break question because I'd be like, so what type of music do you listen to? And then they would tell me, and I'd be like, whoa, there's like a lot of judgment coming at this. Yeah. And now I don't even ask that question.
No, it really doesn't matter. I mean,
I usually just want to see how she'll react to my music choices.
Sure.
And if she can hang with those, then I'm like, cool, like I'll hang with yours too.
Yeah. Like, a make or break thing for me still is if you never let me pick the song in the car. It's like I dated some people who are just like, okay, you're always DJing, so you always have to DJ?
In this scenario, are you always DJing? So not just like a driver, you know, passenger sitch.
Either one.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm the passenger, sometimes the driver, and I've dated people that are like, I'll play one song, sometimes I'll get to play a song, and then it's right back to like, oh wait, I got this song. And it's like, hey, it's okay to not control everything.
What do you think the rule should be?
I feel like if you're driving, generally you should be able to pick what's going on. You're driving. Yeah. Okay.
I think I fall on the opposite side of that now.
Yeah.
And the only reason I do that is from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, there you go. Like, let the passenger DJ.
Yeah.
You got different rules, man. Some people, I've never really thought about it, actually.
I mean, I've broken both those rules.
Yeah.
So, you know, you know, I'm like, no, I'm just going to DJ now or whatever. But
I've dated girls that never asked me about like what, I don't know. I've dated girls that like weren't really specifically musical, but and I am,
of course.
But for some reason they never like asked me like, hey, what should we listen to? Or like, hey, do you have any, like they never cared that I was like a musician and like maybe I have a little bit of insight about like what's good to listen to right now. And they're always just like, here's this Melanie Martinez song. And I'm like, well, you know, I
think her name is Melody Martinez.
Is a Melody Martinez. And I'm always like, well, I'm, you know, maybe you don't have to pick it all the time. I can pick stuff. I can fly. I'm a pilot. Like it's just like
I'm pilot.
Russell K. Sir.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or I feel like Randy Quaid in Independence say like, hey, I could do this. You could let me.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like oddly slighted. I was just like, that's kind of. And so
there's something wrapped up in here, man.
I know
like,
there really is.
You know,
like it's an odd sign. It's a George Costanza moment, definitely.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
You know,
absolutely. I guess you just gotta like have to find that balance or the right person who like inquires properly or something.
Or just, you know, acknowledges. She never let me pick the song, Terry.
But you got to communicate that too.
Yeah.
You got to just be like, hey, like, this is great. Can I
feel like.
Have you done that before? Have you done that? Or are you waiting for it to be like.
I just feel like it should be an unspoken thing. Like have a little bit of insight.
Man, let me tell you, unspoken things are fucking bullshit. It's not how shit's gonna work.
Sometimes it should, though. Sometimes it should.
Of course, we should think it should. Like, no fucking shit, we should think it should because we're in our brain and we're right.
Yeah.
But like, man,
unspoken things are bullshit.
Exactly. I mean, right now, the unspoken thing that we have in my place is nobody kill each other.
Right.
That's
a good unspoken rule.
But like music choice, that's a little like higher level thinking there.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know. I would like try and communicate it next time and just see what happens.
Oh, there will be no next time with this person.
Well, I'm saying the next.
Oh, right,
person.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna be single for a while, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be single for a while. I like it. I like having a life. It's good. If I think about having a girlfriend right now, I get slightly anxious, and I feel like that's a good sign that I should not have a girlfriend right now. So
Interesting.
yeah, I should I'm gonna stay single for a while, man. Just work it single.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll judge it by the number of podcast episodes. Maybe okay, we're at episode 13 right now. I'll get a girlfriend around episode 35.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you
Let's go
are you
20
saying that as like
22
an
episodes.
incentive structure for yourself, or as a timeline? What are you thinking
Timeline.
here?
More of a timeline.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll keep it at 35. So hopefully like 18 months from now. Wait, I'm probably gonna get to 35 pretty quickly.
It's like-
let's we're gonna go ahead and bump that. We're gonna say episode 200. I'll get a girlfriend.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you're incentivizing yourself
No, I'm
anymore.
not at all. Not at all. Yeah, being single is the shit. Henry Rollins had a good deal. I always thought this was fucking hilarious when Henry Rollins was on Joe Rogan's podcast about a year ago.
Okay.
And Henry Rollins.
I recently just listened to a bunch of Joe Rogan podcasts.
What are your thoughts? Just side thought about him. What do you think?
He's kind of like libertarian, which is like,
Politically, he's all over the place.
yeah, which is like what I call Houston liberals.
Ha, there you go.
So
funny.
that's the way I think of him, and like he's like a really well informed and a very compassionate listener.
Yeah,
which
definitely.
Kind of not something that I would necessarily take Joe Rogan as,
right?
Just with like his background and history, but people are complex, and he's really good at carrying on a conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
His one with Neil Brennan was really good.
Yeah. Oh, Neil Brennan's just fucking incredible, dude.
Yeah.
That guy. He had a little Instagram video the night of the Golden Globes where he was like, "This is why I'm not wearing a blue tux or a black tux tonight." And he was like, "Ooh, sick burn on society." Like it's everything Neil Brennan does. Not a lot of people know that he wrote Chappelle's Show.
Right.
Like he was the writer of Chappelle's Show. And so when you think about the writer of Chappelle's Show, you're like, oh, Dave Chappelle. But like, no, this guy did it.
Yeah.
It's like a little mousy, nerdy fucking white dude. Like wrote half of Chappelle's Show with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
And so that guy's a genius.
You were saying though, Henry Rollins.
Yeah. Henry Rollins was on about a year ago, and Joe, because Henry Rollins is like, I don't know, 50s or 60s at this point, gray hair, and I think he's like my dad's age, born right around the time of my dad's, and Joe Rogan was like, what? So girlfriend, wife, anything like that, and Henry Rollins had a deal where he was just like, oh no, I think about waking up next to a person, and I'm just like, I don't want to do that. Like I wake up and she's there. Like I don't want to do it. And that's just the way he put it. I was like, he's just like, yeah, work is just better. So it was like, oh my God. He is so intense. I don't see myself doing that. But that's where my mind is right now. Like that's where it is right now. It probably won't, but I think it's going to change, because sometimes I see little kids and I'm like, maybe I can have one of those, at some point.
I really want kids someday.
Yeah.
I love kids.
The older you get, the more you're just like, I'm not completely scared of you. It's like, I could probably do it,
I mean, all the people I see that have kids, I'm like, oh, fuck that. I could do that. But
I can do that. It's like the hardest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like actually raising
it's like
a
you
human.
have to make sure this thing doesn't die.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, definitely. I think it's weird. I gain more respect for my parents the older I get, even though I don't have children yet. But like the more I just kind of gather information about what's probably involved in it. I have siblings that have children, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's the hardest shit I've ever seen done ever.
Absolutely.
So, but the older you get, it's weird, man, because you're just like, oh, I can do it. Yeah, sure. I could do that one day. Why not? I already do a lot of dad jokes. So
you're halfway there.
yeah. Yeah. I don't think I could
You have
ever
a steady mentality too. Like, I don't see you getting like
erratic,
erratic with your
want to shoot up the heroin.
I mean, if that's is that what parents do to bring themselves down?
Oh God, no! I think they call that Lexapro. That's what they do. Yeah, something like that.
The suburban drugs.
Yeah, I wait tables and
suburbia drugs.
Yeah, as my day job, I wait tables, and I see a lot of parents come in, and it's so funny, man, and because they tip wonderfully when this happens, but it'll be like a mom and like 3 kids and no older than 8 years old, and she's like, wine, just give me wine. Just like, I get that, I feel that, yeah, heard, like,
just take care of me.
Give me wine.
Take care of me for this hour while these kids are yelling, and I'm gonna give you 25%. We talking 25-30% here?
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's do it.
I'm a standard 20% tipper.
Yeah, definitely.
Always.
Have you seen this thing now where kids, and I say kids, but I mean like 25 to, let's say, whatever the hipster age is, 25 to 35 maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're younger 30s, but like early 20s even. But I saw a girl in the grocery store, couldn't have been older than like 27, with the mom jeans, like the loose-fitting mom jeans, up to like halfway upper abdomen. And so the cuff
You're
of
not
the
into
jeans,
that?
no, not at all. And the cuff of the jeans was like, a few inches above her ankles, like Ked socks and like white Velcro shoes with like a very Cracker Barrel looking t-shirt.
Was there also a sign on the back of her back that said "I give up"?
Yeah, with the braided belt. And from what I could gather, she was on the phone. I heard her talk. She wasn't mentally handicapped.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, what the hell is going on with the mom? Is it mom?
Was she feeling herself? Was she wearing it with confidence?
I mean, not particularly.
Okay.
The confidence didn't really enter into my thing. She didn't give a fuck, but it was just like, I understand not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
I understand it. I think everybody should go for not giving a fuck. But like, what is happening with
wearing
that?
Sunglasses at night
and the shades are on.
Not giving a fuck.
There we go. But are you dancing into momcore like this? I just want to know, like, if you've seen this. Have you seen this around with the girls that dress in like moms? Like,
no. It seems like it would be.
It was the most bizarre.
Ironic.
I feel like it. Yeah, and I'm just like, so you're wearing clothes to be ironic? The ironic clothes thing. Fuck that shit, man. Fuck the ironic clothes thing. And fuck you if you wear ironic clothes. I'm taking a stand right now. That's some hipster ass bullshit. I don't like it.
So I don't wear ironic clothes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No. You look like a person.
Oh, okay.
Like, hey, you look like a person. Like, if you're a guy and your facial hair and your hats make you look like a detective from the 1800s, fuck yourself, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, dude, are you bored? Are you that bored?
Maybe. I mean,
there's not a lot of shit that pisses me off. Shit pisses me off, man. This shit pisses me off so much.
You sound triggered.
I am triggered right now, dude. That chick in the mom clothes pissed me the fuck off, man. It's like bored white. It's always bored white people. It's always white people that are like white kids that are just bored, and I'm just like, you're privileged. You're a privileged piece of shit. You know? You're so bored with life that you could dress ironically, like your life is ironic. Like, maybe die in a fire. Like maybe take a vat of sulfuric acid, like the henchmen were like somehow boiling in 1989 Batman, where they're in that henchman factory, like Atlas Chemical or whatever it was. Maybe dive into one of those.
Can I offer a more compassionate view?
Yes, please.
Okay. Maybe complete conjecture here.
Yes.
But like, we're creative people.
Sure.
We're used to putting ourselves out there some way or another.
Yes.
I think sometimes people use irony as like a defense mechanism, as a way to they want to feel like they're putting themselves out there, and the ironic shirts, the ironic clothing helps validate the attention that comes from that.
I think you're right, man.
And at the same time, though, it's like it's a very hollow gesture. So I think when I'm listening to you too, I think that's more like the annoying thing is that it feels like a hollow gesture rather than something authentic or truthful.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's just a kind of a projection of insecurity in a lot of ways, a defense mechanism.
We gonna talk about projections? Next part of this podcast, Projections, is brought to you by cereal, not the podcast, the general concept. Maybe go eat some, get a fucking bag of it. Don't worry about the brand names because they redo all that shit in the grocery store. Projections. Anyway, let's get back to this. Let's talk about it. Projection of insecurities.
Ooh, sick burn on society. Man, I would like to have this podcast sponsored by general concepts of things.
Oh, okay. Let's go through a couple others.
Yeah.
General concepts. Tripping on acid. This is about the general concept of doing that. It's not about tripping into acid or tripping on acid if it were laying on the ground. It's about the drug use, the general concept of that.
This podcast brought to you by the general feeling you get when you step into a shower. Yes, the feeling of warmth stepping into a shower, brought to you by the No Pants Podcast.
Counterpoint, this is also brought to you by stepping into a shower that has not fully been warmed because you went into a stranger's shower and did not know which way the cold water was and then froze yourself to death.
This podcast brought to you by low-key peeing in a stranger's shower. You're over at somebody's house and then you pee in their shower and don't tell them.
Or peeing in their front lawn.
Oh, yes.
A lot of high school drunken peeing in people's lawns.
Yeah, that's true.
Projections.
This podcast brought to you by that first bite of Captain Crunch cereal.
With berries or without?
With berries.
Yeah.
This podcast brought to you by dipping a peanut butter and jelly into milk.
Holy fuck. I've never done that.
You've never dipped a peanut butter and jelly into milk?
Well, now that it's a general concept, I guess I have to.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to go by unspoken social contracts, once again, unspoken words, bringing it back around.
There you go.
PB&J
Full
into
circle.
milk.
Here's the deal, though. Here's what you got to do. You have to pay attention to your peanut butter and jelly ratios inside of the sandwich. You need to make sure there's not too much.
Let's talk sandwiches. Let's go.
Absolutely. And sandwich. This podcast brought to you by Sandwich Talk. You have to make sure that you're not putting so much jelly into your sandwich that it's going to fall at the bottom of your glass. And if you are able to make sure...
What type of bread are we talking here? White or wheat?
I go with honey wheat for talking.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. If you want to go next level, sourdough. Sara Lee sourdough peanut butter and jelly.
Sourdough and milk?
It adds, not necessarily with milk. If we're going outside milk, I would suggest sourdough. Adds a bit of dynamic to the PB&J.
Okay.
But if we're going dipping into milk, 100% honey wheat is going to be the way to go.
I do like that honey wheat.
HEB has fresh ground honey roasted peanut butter now. I don't know if you've heard of this or if you've seen this inside of an HEB. Any HEB, like HEB Plus, anything like that, will have these peanut butter machines that are just like coffee grinders, but they're just filled with hoppers of like honey roasted peanuts. And you flip a switch and it just gives you fresh peanut butter. And it is 100% the best peanut butter I've ever had. It's not quite creamy. It's
Judging by your finger technique in describing this, clearly.
This podcast brought to you by Talking With Your Hands.
On a podcast, you can't see what we're doing, but we can.
Hand gestures. Talking with your hands to prove a point. No, but actually, no. Go get that peanut butter now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, getting a phone call.
Oh, you got a phone call there?
I won't. I'll call him. Zach, if you listen to this, I'm missing your phone call right now, but I will call you back later.
This will air in about 3 or 4 days, so we're good.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're fine.
I'll talk to him before then, I think.
I have to edit my episode yesterday that I did. I did an episode yesterday over Skype with a friend of mine who is an evolutionary virologist. And I just talked to him.
What is that?
So evolutionary virology is basically studying viruses and understanding how they interact. This is what I've gathered from what he told me.
Okay.
Is understanding how they interact and understanding the history of viruses and how they've evolved over time to alter the genomes of the creatures they infect. So, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, but that's like basically how evolution happens on some level, right? Is that there becomes some sort of outlier that helps advance the species.
Yeah.
So is he trying to equate that with like basically viruses that helped kind of start that chemical reaction?
I don't think so. I think he's just talking about his field of study is specifically how viruses have just evolved over time. Not necessarily the things they infect, but just viruses and how they've evolved over the timeline of like things existing, I guess. Yeah, I asked him what the first virus was. He doesn't know. They don't know what the first virus actually was.
Is that the important question to ask at this point?
I just wanted to know if there was an answer to that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I guess I'm like wondering from his job. I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very inquisitive and like interesting question. I'd also be like, so what's going to kill us? What gives us the third leg, man?
Yeah. I did ask him about the common cold because I was like, oh, you're literally the most qualified person to ask about like why can't we just cure the cold?
Yeah.
And it is essentially because it's never going to kill us. So it's just like we don't. He was just like basically he was like we don't give a shit. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, so because he's like take some vitamins, put on a sweater, you'll be fine. Like just that sort of thing. So I was like, oh, I never thought about it from there because everybody's like, why don't they cure the colds? Because we don't give a fuck, man. Take some Advil, you're good, or Alka-Seltz, whatever you take for colds. But so I have
clearly don't get colds that much if you think you're supposed to take Alka-Seltz.
Advil. I got something nasty in the middle of Free Week, man. And
you were telling me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was, but like after our Friday show at Mohawk Friday night, I came home, and it was like my first night in the new place that I moved into, and I just had my bed on the floor, so I was just like shivering on this like mattress on the floor, just like what the fuck? What
were you? After this, I can show you the tea I made for myself and that I make for myself to help with my immune system, and also helps with my throat for singing, especially because like during the winter months, there's a certain range of my voice I just can't hit.
Right.
And so like I have to yell through that because it's kind of like a falsetto area that I like to go to.
Yeah.
And so I end up just yelling through it, but I still make a tea that kind of like keeps my throat fresh and my immune system going.
Okay.
And I can show you that right after that.
Let's have this podcast brought to you by Tea Recipes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great general.
There you go.
Thing.
General concept.
Yeah.
I will generally, if I need to go to sleep, I didn't have any at the time, but like I will just gorge on NyQuil, and then during the day I will just take I'll slam Emergency, and then I'll do daytime Theraflu. And Theraflu is like crack. I don't know what they put in Theraflu, but I had to play a show the next night after a 6-hour shift at work, and I just felt like dying. And so I took a daytime Theraflu right before we played. I felt amazing. I felt fantastic.
That's like how I understand why people get addicted to NyQuil.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, this is like fucking loopy, trippy.
Yeah.
So I've like had to when I do get cough or whatever, like have to be real careful with that.
Yeah.
So
this podcast brought to you by addictions to over-the-counter drugs.
Also, the first time I did blow, and I think this is the reason why I don't like cocaine, is the sun was coming up, and I was like just up in my bedroom here, and it was like 5:36 or something. The sun was still coming up, and I was just like, I'm not going to sleep. And so I went and took 2 shots of NyQuil to go to bed to come down from it. And the next morning I woke up. I maybe had like 4 hours of sleep. And the next morning I woke up and I was just like, this is the worst feeling I've ever had. And I ended up watching TV upside down all day.
Yeah.
To like feel normal. Like that was my normal.
Yeah.
So
not a good feeling.
And so now it's like, because I have basically that aversion to it, I'm like, I'll stick with the au naturals and things like that.
It's so funny that a lot of drugs are put into the same categories, and they're clearly not in the same categories.
No.
There's a lot of drugs that are really good for you, and there are a lot of drugs that are just made in a lab and shit, and just like not the best for you health wise. Just like not, but everybody's like, well, they're all drugs. Like I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, like alcohol is basically poison for your body.
Yeah,
and like it's completely fine and
way worse for you.
Oh yeah, than weed,
than pot
for sure.
Like health wise, mentally, just not good.
We're probably preaching to the choir with the people that listen to
everybody
this anyway,
that listens to this, definitely. Unless you're
this podcast is sponsored by
preaching to the choir. Unless my mom is listening, in which case, hey mom. Sometimes I will. I try to get my mom to smoke some when we were up in Seattle. I have family in Seattle, and we'll go there for Christmas sometimes. It's like the 4th time I've mentioned that on this podcast, but whatever. When you don't pay attention to how much you mention stuff until you have a podcast that you record your voice on, then you're like, oh, I've said this before.
Are you having your I Heart Huckabees moment?
Yeah, there you go.
And Shania.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies, but it's like
so good, man. Jason Schwartzman, man, I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love him so much. It was legal a couple years ago. It was like legal rec for like the first year or something like that. So I was like, Mom, let's go to a pot shop. She was like, yeah, I can go. I'm not gonna. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna try to talk my 57-year-old mom into doing it. I was like,
right.
But we all went to go see The Martian, and my brother and I were like, let's pop some of these little 10 milligram candies that we got.
Yeah.
So we were on Mars watching The Martian. Yeah, which was that was nice because I realized how high I was sitting next to my mother, and then I was like, oh, I've never been this high. Period.
Right.
and then and I'm like, and
my
I'm like,
mom is here.
yeah. And then I'm sitting next to my mom, so I was like, I have to get out of this situation immediately. So I freak out, as you do on edibles, because it's half hallucinogen at that point. And I walk out to the lobby of this theater in Seattle, which is this old school dollar theater, not the Regal Met, not Met. Sure. It's this old Seattle, Washington, old kind of grungy theater. No pun intended, but I walk out into the lobby, and I look at, you're in a legal state when you look at the concession kid.
Yeah,
he's I know, man. He's like, bathrooms are that way. He's kind of snickering. I'm like, yeah.
You look bad, bro. You look real bad.
And and so I must have stared at the toilet for a solid 5 minutes, just kind of wondering how far it was away from me. It turns out it was normal length away from me. But yeah, man, those edibles will get you, dude.
That's why you got to give yourself a pep talk before doing things like that.
You really do. The edibles are a different deal, man.
I give myself a pep talk before those sorts of things. I just say hey, how are you feeling today, Aaron?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I do not drink or try to depress my emotions if I'm feeling bad. And I'm like a big proponent of that.
Yeah.
And so especially if I'm wanting to take mushrooms or edibles or something, definitely do a quick self check with myself, being like, you good here? If you're not, don't fucking do it.
That's real important.
Yeah, but if you're good, and then I say, hey, you're good, cool. Are you ready for whatever happens to you? Are you ready to be open to that? And then if the answer is yes to that, I'm like, cool, we're good. Cool. So I give myself a quick pep talk before doing
definitely.
that. But
sometimes you just got to roll the dice.
I'm kind of strict on that because addiction runs in my family, and so I get super. I'm probably really sensitive to that. And so I never want to even give myself the perception of you're going down this wrong road, Aaron.
you know, the Jesus painting with the guy with the heroin needle and Jesus is holding the
just
the
yeah. You really want to go down this road, son?
It's a long path.
It's dark.
It's a dark and stormy road.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm typically in a pretty good mood.
Yeah.
So that's not been a big problem.
You're in a good enough mood to have a podcast with your pants off, so that's,
Look, man, I'm just trying to do another thing that makes me uncomfortable to stay in the moment.
Yeah, this is I'm not even,
But see, once again, look, we're not dying.
No, we're not dying.
We're doing something that's a little out of our element.
I would be remiss if I named my podcast the No Pants Podcast without being willing to take my pants off every once in a while.
Fair.
So, you gotta be prepared for it. I leave it up to the guest. You're the first guest that is specifically requested that we de-pants. And so
I don't know if I requested it, but I did say.
I think you just kind of took your pants off.
I was like, I just said, I'm going to take my pants off. Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
And you said yes. And then I took my pants off.
I like it because it's sort of an allegory for being vulnerable,
Once again, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The more personal, the more universal things
The more
become.
like Tom Hanks from Castaway you are, the better a podcast we'll have because we get to open it up.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me the other day, what makes Tom Hanks so great? I'm like, dude, the end of Castaway, man. Did you tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide will bring? And you're just like, were you not crying at the end of that? Has there been a Tom Hanks? Wait, question. Prime Tom Hanks era. We're talking 92 to about 2005. Now, he still makes great movies, but we're talking prime Hanks. So 92 to about 2005. Did he make a movie where you didn't cry at the end of it?
Apollo 13.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, I absolutely cried at the end of Apollo 13, man.
I will also say, though, I was probably more emotionally stunted at that point in my life.
Gotcha.
Now, I cry at fucking everything.
Yeah.
I one time cried during a TV commercial during the NBA playoffs because the music and just the family happiness just like really touched me. And I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on? I am crying from a TV commercial in the middle of this Spurs game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're winning. Like, like it's not.
You're like, maybe I should have my testosterone checked. I should go to the doctor.
I just, want to be, people are like so afraid of their emotions.
Yeah,
and they're there,
It's okay.
I want to respect them.
So one time I was showing my friends a friend of mine Radiohead, and he was like, "This sounds like a band for sensitive people." I was like, "Or just people with emotions,
Yeah.
You can just have emotions."
Where do you stand on the sensitivity thing? Not are you sensitive, but where do you stand on, I guess, people being too sensitive, overly sensitive, not sensitive enough?
Yeah, I mean,
what is your general concept stance on this?
My general stance on sensitivity, I don't know. I know a lot of really sensitive people because I'm in a music community,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think we all have to be. It's kind of like a community of actors where it's all like you all have to be pretty emotionally in tune to kind of like to get your shit across. And so I know a lot of emotionally open people, a lot of sensitive people, but for the most part, it's not like socially hindering, Like I could talk to a lot of people where it's like you're so sensitive, but it's like I don't know. I guess it's just like it's okay to be as sensitive as you want to be. Just make sure you can still socially function, just for your sake, like.
Yes, that was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, like but I don't. Yeah, I never understood the need to kind of mask it. I think people maybe that have been hurt in the past feel the need to mask it a lot. Understandably so, right? I'm no therapist or anything, but I would assume that's why.
Oh, same.
But like,
same here, man. I mean,
but I was pretty blessed with like a pretty decent upbringing where I didn't have to go through a lot of trauma or anything like that.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
I know. Well, my parents split when I was young, but it's like they handled it so well, and they're both wonderful people. And
What year? How old were you?
I was 9.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I always took it really well, and they both got into very healthy marriages that made them much happier people shortly thereafter. And and so you kind of go on that thing. So I think in a lot of ways, it desensitized me to the feeling of like I learned the lesson of like the world's not always going to be as rosy as you want it to be very early on. Mm-hmm. And so I think that helped in a lot of ways. I think it was good to learn that lesson as a kid. But yeah, man, I was never burdened with having to go through anything too serious and that's a very good, I'm lucky that happened. Very lucky. And so, I think a lot of people aren't as lucky. And so they have to be, there you go. And so they have to be defensive in some ways. And that is a lesson you have to learn too, to like be open to people. And you got to relearn. I've had to learn a lot of lessons that other people like that didn't have. I've had to learn, like I've had to teach myself work ethic because I didn't have such a traumatic childhood. I pretty much had to teach myself how to work hard and go after. So I had to come at it from the other angle where it's like, oh, if I don't do this, A, B, and C will happen, and I don't want that to happen. So like I should get off my ass and do that. And I've had to literally like fight against being lazy my entire adult life, So that's the burden I have to carry. But like I never had the burden of like having to protect myself emotionally. I could always be pretty open, and that's kind of just how I've attacked it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Dang.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's my story. That's my story. But yeah, man, I don't know. I've always, and I think it's a pretty necessary thing to just be open, I think it's unfortunately it's harder for other people to do it, because you got to get over some shit. But I think it's a necessary thing, much like learning to work hard is a necessary thing. And those are necessary things, I think, to be a functioning person, letting other people in, because you're going to be lonely. You're going to be super lonely if you don't,
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing. So
you want to talk once again about like unspoken things, just like kind of feeding off each other's energies of like, is this open, body language, things like that, paying attention to it.
Sure.
I'm probably overly sensitive to that sort of thing personally, but I also like want to just be respectful,
definitely.
So yeah, but like that's like one of my, if you talk about like central dramas of your life, there's I don't know if are you familiar with that term at all?
What term?
Central drama.
No.
It's something I learned about when I was 18, and it talks about basically the nagging negative voice in your head, in my head at least. There's kind of like a central action that it's trying to either prove or disprove for you.
Really?
And it dictates most, if not all, your actions on some level, some like very fundamental level. And there's something that happened to you, or that happened to me in my childhood, that like dictates that.
Right.
And so mine is something along the lines of like, I'm unlovable and I will be lonely for my entire life.
Yeah.
And there are things that happen in my life that once again disprove that. There are actions that I do to disprove that.
Okay.
And, I haven't like pinpointed where it happened, but I think with like the way I was raised in like my childhood, there's like plenty of examples that something came up where that happened.
Sure.
And so I'm constantly fighting that off, and it's really tough. I've actually kind of like made more of like a New Year's resolution around it to because like my negative thinking does not really serve me. And
who does it serve,
No, exactly. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve anyone. And so I'm really trying to make a more conscious effort of putting positive thoughts instead of figuring out why something isn't going to work. Why should it work?
I think a really hard lesson to learn for some people, it definitely was a lesson that I had to learn and had to think about for a while, is you could choose what you put out into the world and what you project to other people. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily what you project because you want them to think a certain way, but just project because you're conscientious of how your actions affect other people.
And also just think about how we project ourselves on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram,
exactly.
All that,
And that's a battle with me too, because I like to be skeptical of things. I like to question things a lot, but I don't want to be an asshole. So,
sure.
But it's a hard lesson to learn that like when you realize how your energy affects other people, and that you also nobody's stopping you from just being fucking positive all the time.
Yeah, and
nobody's gonna stop you from doing that. You could be as fucking rad as you want, and nobody's gonna stop you from doing that. And you're just like, oh, I think when that kind of clicks, and you're like, oh, I could just do that all the time and be fucking awesome all the time, and nobody's gonna stop me. And if anybody tries to then fuck that person. That it's weird that you don't. I don't know. It takes some time to kind of, for me at least, it took some time for me to actually kind of realize that. Like,
it's a really conscientious effort that you have to do. And I think one of the things that I've always been afraid of myself and like my energy, which is why I like to perform, is that I have a big energy. If I am very happy, like everyone around me is going to know it. If I'm in a bad mood,
same, man.
Everyone's going to know it.
Same, dude. Yeah.
And so like I feel like sometimes I overwhelm people with that. And so I've been picking my spots more with like who I allow to kind of fully see that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when I get on stage and I'm performing, like I get to be as big energy as I want, because it's also my responsibility to entertain the audience.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like the crazier I go, the crazier it gives permission for everyone else to go as well.
Right.
And I think when people come out to a show, and if they really are wanting to be entertained or check out or not, check their phones for, 30 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Then like you got to do something to further engage them, to further to get over those slights or those, conditions.
Yeah. Or maybe just let them kind of exist in that space without, needing to adhere to any sort of thing, because that's a thought I have too, where it's like, maybe it'd be cool if you came up to the front, but also sometimes I'm just like, let them be, let them do whatever they want. Maybe they had a shit day and they just want to kind of hear some tunes and passively be present, that's an okay thing to do too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just like,
except at a Major Grizz show, you guys better fucking dance at that shit.
Dude, who said that?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here, Satan.
Oh, God damn it. Satan, get behind me.
Get out of here, Satan.
Just, there he's
okay,
gone.
He's gone.
Door just opened and closed on its own. We don't know how that happened.
Jesus.
But, I love that about that space. Man, performing for me is just is cathartic, dude. It's I have the fortune of being in a band that's just like stupid loud and just like
fuck yeah,
ripping. And so when I joined when I joined Oasis the Destroyer like a year and a half ago or so, I was like, oh, I get to be in a band like this again, where it's just like we're performing, but also it's like a workout. I'm just like, oh, it's like,
oh yeah,
it's just like after a workout or something like that, where you're just like, oh, I'm everything's fine now. It's all my shit's there, and it's in a puddle on the stage. It's just like that's where you put it.
My buddy Andrew asked at the last show that we played at Sahara Lounge. He was like, Aaron, did you spill a drink or is that your sweat?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's sweat, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the show I took my shirt off for.
There you go.
Which was pretty fucking
Man,
great.
you went full Burt Kreischer, dude. Well done.
I punched a hole in the ceiling too on accident.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
The ceiling is low at Sahara Lounge, and that
Yeah.
bar is like great and falling apart at the same time.
Very much. You. That was some Major Grizz.
Yeah.
That's some Major Grizz.
Yeah, I was.
Hence the name.
Yeah.
That's like I was gonna ask where the name came from, then I was like, wait, no, I don't have to ask that. I know what it's about. So.
Actually, the name. I mean, there's nothing sexy about it. We drew words out of a hat.
Really?
Yeah, we're just like, that works. Cool.
Shut the fuck up, man, because it's so appropriate to like who you are as a person.
Well, I mean, I've been getting that a lot.
It just makes sense, yeah.
And but like everyone was like, yeah, this works. I'm probably the least fan of the band name, but I don't really give a fuck about it. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
who
it's a
cares?
very fun
It's a
name,
name.
and there's a lot to play off of it with. So
There you go.
you know,
Speaking of, man, let's wrap it up. It's been an hour and 20 minutes.
shit.
We'll do another one. We'll get some more. We'll get some more therapy out of the next session here.
If that's what you want, man.
Yeah,
Was this too
we'll do another one.
therapeutic for you?
No,
or-
this was good, man. This is good.
Okay.
This is good. We could delve into whatever we want, man.
That's perfect.
I like to
All
keep
right.
the parameters loose. But Aaron, tell everyone where they can hear Major Grizz, where you're playing, where they can go to get all things Aaron Blackerby and Major Grizz here while you put on the shades.
Major Grizz is playing on January 27th at Hotel Vegas. We go on at 10:45, and we will probably release a new song before the show. Brr, 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 brr. We also have another show that will be our birthday celebration on February 16th with Blood Pumps, Dr. Joe, and a Neil Young cover band consisting of members from Basketball Shorts and Big Bill. Brr, 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 brr. And also, we are looking for gigs for South by Southwest.
And you can see all that stuff on our Instagram at Major Grizz Band. We're on Twitter at Major Grizz Band. We are on Facebook at Major Grizz Band. And we have a Tumblr that I haven't written in a while. It is also at Major Grizz Band Tumblr.
Get on the Tumblr, man.
We have a Bandcamp, which is kind of follows our merch model of pay what you want.
Okay.
If you want to stream us, we're on all the things. Just type in Major Grizz. That is with 2 Z's. That's right, 2 Z's, like you're
Two
falling asleep, but you're not when you're listening to Major Grizz.
Major Grizz.
And we'll be releasing a lot of new music this year, which is pretty cool. We have a bunch of songs on the back burner and hopefully like an EP later this year release and a lot of good stuff. We're like kind of, for the most part, booked out till May at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm really stoked on what we're doing. And
This podcast brought to you by the general concept of Major Grizz.
yeah.
There we go. Aaron Blackerby, thanks for doing it, man.
Hey, yeah, dude. Thank
All
you.
right.
This situation isn't ordinary. Been blinded for too long. I know the world is burning daily.
This has been a presentation of the No Pants Podcast.
Because tomorrow the sun will rise. Who knows what the tide could bring?